So, you're thinking about buying an Apple Watch Series 6 in 2025. Really? Imagine your friends are busy showing off their latest and greatest smartwatches on their wrists, and you show up wearing this. It's not a bad choice, but it's definitely not the latest and greatest either. But hey, you do you. To be fair, the Series 6 was pretty sick when it dropped. Blood oxygen monitoring? Cool. Always on display. Fancy. Battery life? We'll talk. But fast forward 4 years, and we have the Apple Watch Series 9 flexing with all the fitness and smart data. Yeah, none of us have bought the Series 10 yet. But the real question is the Series 6 still worth your hard-earned money? Or is it just a glorified wrist notification machine? We'll break it down. Design, performance, battery life, fitness features, and because we know you're curious, how it stacks up against the Series 9. We're going to cover that as well. So, buckle up and let's do this. Alright, let's talk design and build quality, because if you're going to strap something to your wrist every single day, it better not feel like a Fisher-Price toy. So, the Apple Watch Series 6, launched in 2020 looking, well, exactly like the Apple Watch Series 5, and Series 4, and honestly, if we squint, most of them. But hey, it works. Anyways, ours has been a titanium space black with a digital crown with haptic feedback, a side button, a speaker for those ultra-important wrist calls, and a microphone for yelling at Siri when she completely misinterprets your reminders. Now, the display is a 1.78-inch Retina LTPO OLED panel with 1,000 nits of brightness, meaning it's bright, crisp, and still holds up in 2025. Even in direct sunlight, the always-on display makes it easy to check the time without doing that awkward wrist flick like you're casting a spell. But there's a catch. Compared to newer models, the bezels on the Series 6 are thick, like Google Pixel 2 era thick. Apple finally trimmed them down in later models, so if you've seen the Series 7, 8, or 9, the Series 6 kind of feels like it skipped leg day. Also, there's a scratch now. So yeah. But durability? It's solid. The sapphire crystal glass on this titanium model holds up way better than the Ion X glass on the aluminum models. If you've got the titanium version as we do, you probably already have some oops scratches. Oh, and it's water resistant up to 50 meters, so unless you're planning on deep sea diving with it, you're good. It even has a water lock mode, which stops ghost touches when you're in the water. Even though we knew the water resistant drill, we just never used this watch to that extent. So, is the design holding up or aging? Looks-wise, it still looks clean and premium. Build quality? Still solid, but the bezels are thicker, and newer models have better glass durability. Display? Bright and sharp. And as for durability, it's been pretty good to be honest, but get a case if you have butterfingers. So, the Apple Watch Series 6 still runs surprisingly well in 2025, but it's not winning any races against newer models. It may not be the newest kid on the block, but it's still got some serious game. 4 years after its release, this thing still runs like a champ. Apps open quickly, animations are smooth, and you won't find yourself aggressively tapping the screen, wondering if it's frozen. Sure, it doesn't have the absolute latest chip, but does that actually matter for day-to-day use? Not really. Apple's S6 dual-core processor was already 20% faster than its predecessor, and that extra power means that even in 2025, the Series 6 isn't showing its age much at all. Swiping through menus, smooth. Opening apps, quick. Tracking workouts and syncing data. No hiccups. Notifications and calls, instant. For most people, this is more than enough performance for an everyday smartwatch. The Apple Watch has always been optimized to work well with watchOS updates, and the Series 6 still handles it like a pro. And let's not forget, the Taptic engine is still top tier, giving you that satisfying haptic feedback for notifications and alarms. You won't miss an alert unless you really want to. One of the biggest strengths of Apple Watches is how well they age with software updates, and the Series 6 is no exception. Running watchOS 10.5, it still has all the key features you'd expect from a modern Apple Watch. It's still getting updates, And unless Apple throws a curveball, it'll likely get Watch OS 11 too. For anyone upgrading from an older Apple Watch, like Series 3 or 4, the Series 6, to be honest, is not an option. But for someone using an outdated Fitbit or feeling like switching to a smartwatch for a while to know how it feels like, the Series 6 is a good start if you are looking to spend less money. But anyway, newer models like the Series 9 and 10 come with on-device Siri, which makes voice commands a little faster. But in real-world use, Siri still works great on the Series 6. It responds quickly as long as you have an internet connection. You can still set timers, send texts, and control smart home devices with ease. Unless you're really into voice control and need instant offline Siri commands, this won't be a deal breaker at all. On another note, Apple introduced the double tap gesture on the Series 9 and 10, which lets you control your watch by pinching your fingers together. Pretty cool, right? But let's be real. Most people are already used to tapping the screen, and it's not like touching your watch has suddenly become inconvenient. Would it be nice to have? Sure. But does the Series 6 feel outdated without it? Not at all. One of the best things about Apple Watches is that they don't get abandoned quickly. The Series 6 is still getting updates, and it's expected to receive at least another year or two of software support. Unlike some older models, the Series 6 won't slow down just because of updates. And even after Apple stops updating it, the watch will still work perfectly fine for notifications, fitness tracking, and daily use. Now, battery life, the Achilles heel of most Apple devices. And while the Apple Watch Series 6 doesn't exactly drain faster than most of the watches at a similar price point, it's definitely not an all-day warrior under heavy use. Up to 18 hours of advertised battery life sounded great back then, until you realize that after 5 years, it's not the same, because you gotta charge this every single day. And if you push it hard with GPS or non-stop notifications, good luck making it past dinner. Realistically, battery life depends on what you do with it. Our experience has been good, but since we always choose the hard way for testing things, we figured out some stuff. If you're wondering why your watch is dying faster than your New Year's resolutions, here are some pro tips. You've turned on the always-on display. It drains 15 to 20% of the battery per day. Tracking drains pretty much the same amount of battery. You can turn it off as well if you aren't planning a marathon. And as for blood oxygen and ECG scans, we recommend not scanning your SpO2 every 5 minutes for fun. The Series 6 charges in under 2 hours, which isn't bad, but newer models charge 33% faster. So, if you're using it for basic tasks, it's totally manageable. But if you go heavy on workouts, or GPS, you'll be charging it more often than your phone. Speaking of GPS, Apple specifically got things right starting from this series of watch, because distance tracking got more accurate than ever. No more random teleportation glitches mid-run that we used to have in the Series 4 or 5 watches. But here's the catch. Elevation tracking is a bit enthusiastic. If you trust Apple, you've apparently been climbing mountains during your evening jog. The Apple Watch Series 6 may not be the newest kid in the gym, but it's still a beast at tracking workouts, keeping your heart rate in check, and making sure you don't accidentally overdo it on leg day. But is it flawless? Well, let's just say it's more of a personal trainer than a hardcore drill sergeant. Let's start with the good stuff. The heart rate sensor on the Series 6 is crazy accurate. It has an extra LED, which sounds fancy, but basically just means it reads your pulse better. It's fast at detecting fluctuations, which is perfect for interval training, or that mini heart attack you get when your AirPods case isn't in your pocket. For casual users and runners, it's spot on. But are all these still manageable after 5 years? Nope. This is obvious because battery is not battering properly. The SpO2 sensor, however, is useful for high-altitude training, but for most people, you'll check it once, feel impressed, and then forget it exists. But Apple was a little late to the sleep tracking game, and while the Series 6 does an okay job, it's kind of basic. It tells you when you fell asleep and when you woke up. Cool. It suggests bedtime routines. Cute. But deep sleep tracking? Sleep stages? Yeah, this too. If you want detailed sleep analysis, you'll need third-party apps. Or just a Fitbit, but then you'd have to admit you own a Fitbit. So, Series 6 versus Series 9. Is this a real battle? Or is Apple just slapping a new coat of paint on an old ride? The Series 6 was a monster in 2020 with heart rate tracking, GPS that didn't butcher your run, and a battery that lasted maybe a day. Fast forward 4 years, and the Series 9 rolls in with a bigger display, slightly better tracking, and a handful of extra fitness features. Let's talk fitness. If you're jogging while sipping overpriced cold brew, the Series 6 is still your buddy. Heart rate tracking? Spot on. GPS? Not bad. Sleep tracking? It pretends to care. But the Series 9? It takes it up a notch with VO2 max alerts, sleep apnea detection, and better water tracking for when you randomly decide to kayak. Battery life? Same story. 18 hours max unless you're rocking low power mode, which basically turns your watch into a wrist clock. Sure, the Series 9 charges faster, but we wanted longer battery life, not a quickie recharge. GPS is great in both models, but unless you're running through dense cities or running ultra marathons, it's not a big deal. And then, the Series 9 flexes its shiny new display. 30% bigger, 40% brighter, and thinner. Looks cool, but does it really change how you use the watch? Not much. The real kicker is the price. Series 9 starts at $399, but you can snag a refurbished Series 6 for under $150. So, should you upgrade? Probably not, unless you're dying for that new display or faster charging. If you're new to Apple Watches, it's about whether you want the latest or just a solid, reliable watch. Either way, you're getting a great device. But how much do you want to spend? So, there you have it. The Apple Watch Series 6 in 20 to 25. Still fast, still reliable, still a great smartwatch, and still needing a daily charge because, well, it's an Apple Watch. If you already own a Series 6, it's not gasping for retirement just yet. It still tracks workouts, keeps up with notifications, and looks just as premium as ever. But if you're tempted by the Series 9, just ask yourself, do I need a slightly bigger screen, a few extra fitness features, and the privilege of paying Apple another $400? Again, you do you. Hit that like button, drop a comment below, and if you made it this far, subscribe for more videos like this.